There we go. All right, I think we're good. Say what's up real quick.
What's up? What's up?
There we go. What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Renegade Roundtable, the 21st episode of the Renegade Roundtable. Renegade Roundtable can now finally drink, so there you go. But what is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode. I am Jeffrey Kirby, and we got Caleb with us. He was able to come back this week, and so happy about that. We love when Caleb is here with us on the show.
I'm back again. You can't get rid of me that easily.
And then we already got the comment, L plus ratio plus you tied with the winless team, and then big L. So we're off to a raging hot start. Browns fans, you guys literally got obliterated so bad. So there is that. But we will get
we can hang a banner. We can hang a banner for the times we tied Detroit. We can hang it. I still don't think it's as cool as like the 0-16 banner, but it is what it is.
But yeah, that's not. It's and then being there in person was even worse. It was the whole weekend. There was an experience. I do want to say shout out to everyone that I did get to meet over the weekend. Obviously Marcus, Jared, they're always in the comments. Got to hang out with them. Smitty, Drew, and all of them. I got to meet all of them, and it was so fun to be down there for the weekend and for the culture. That's what we like to say, for the culture. You guys are gonna be there eventually for sure. See what I mean? Browns fans finally do one little thing, and then they finally pump their chest out like it's no tomorrow.
It is what it is. They're gonna always be there.
We'll let them, and they're talking like we'll get there eventually. Like you guys that don't have your own problems, preferably also at quarterback. But that's a different story for a different day, or maybe never. But we do have a game that we need to discuss for our own team.
Wait, there was a game that happened last Sunday?
Yeah.
No, in my mind, games end with a winner and a loser. That was not a game. That was
okay.
Just write that off.
So two things. One, it's sad at the fact that I could say that I've been to the last two Steeler ties in person.
So is it your fault?
It probably is. So
Yeah.
I don't know how that happens. My very first Steeler. So here's what's even better about this. My first Steeler game that I got to see, period, was the tie. My first Steeler game in Pittsburgh, a tie. So does that mean if I go and see a Steeler game in Baltimore for the first time, they're going to tie there too? Or if I go to, God knows, Seattle or something? Like, is that how that works?
Are you planning on going to Seattle to see the Steeler game?
No, not right now. Not anytime soon.
I was gonna say let's back the brakes on going to any more games this year for the first time. Let's visit Heinz Field. That's it.
Well, my friend.
Have you seen the Steelers win?
No. I am 0-1-2. That is honestly sad.
That's pretty bad.
And I really thought that this game was going to be the one, but I guess not.
Well, here's the thing. You saw a game that was subpar. You went in some weather that was pretty bad, but at least you weren't in Cleveland.
Yeah. And one thing that I will say is Pittsburgh's a hell of a city. The hotel that I was at was actually pretty damn cool. It was a really nice. I had a suite, and it was really nice. And then it was only like a mile walk to where I was going for the tailgate, and I'm 2-3 in Browns games in my life, Hunter says, and Andy says just lay off the missing post. By the way, story about that, I actually got recognized for that there too. So there is that. I don't know how to take that, but I guess it was cool to be recognized as that. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, and then obviously I took the path there the way that Caleb had told me to go, which was in this like nice park area, and it was real nice. It was nice and peaceful.
It's a nice area. It's weird because it's like you're so close to the downtown. You're right there in the North Shore where everything's crazy, and then just nice park.
Yeah, and it was.
And
nice.
it's the same with the Point too. You're down on the Point, and it's just you're in the middle of like this big city with all these buildings around you, and hey, here's a nice little park.
Yeah, and it was real nice at the fact that, like I said, it was real peaceful. Walking down there wasn't that cold. Like, it wasn't that bad. It was, obviously, once the precipitation started, when things started to get cold. And, obviously, that walk back in cold, rainy weather, I guess, was very fitting for the result.
Because it fit the day. It looked like the game was the weather.
So let's discuss this, because we watch this game. You go down and you score in the opening drive. James Washington, he catches a touchdown. You're thinking, all right, we all know Mason Rudolph and James Washington. They've had that connection from college. And going into this game, anytime Mason Rudolph is starting, you're thinking, okay, maybe we're going to see a little bit more of an impact from James Washington. We saw a lot of impact from him, and we saw a little bit of Ray McLeod as well in the passing game, which was
a lot of Ray McLeod, which was surprising.
I'll get to your comment here in a second, Hunter. So yeah, let's look at this. So let's look at I want to go down the drives. Let's just talk about this for a minute. So first drive, you go on a 10-play, 83-yard drive that lasts 5 minutes and score a touchdown. You're thinking, okay, that was an interesting sequence, and you're like, all right, we're up to something. Hold the Lions to a 3 and out, then you go 3 and out. Then you hold Detroit to another 3 and out. Then you throw that interception, which was not a good throw. That was not a good interception. Then you hold them to another 3 and out, and then it just becomes this whole deal of just punting, and then they finally score a touchdown. And that's what was annoying, was the fact that they killed us in the ground game. And yeah. I asked myself, I said, so you're meaning to tell me that 2 weeks prior, we held, I think, the number one rushing offense in the NFL in the Cleveland Browns. We held a top running back in the NFL to 61 yards rushing, and then you allow Detroit to kill you for 229 yards on the ground. I don't get that. They allowed 5.9 yards per rush. Go ahead.
This is another one of those Tomlin games. When it comes to that defense, we've seen this for years. We've seen this since Tomlin started, right? The Browns game, and I'll throw a little bit of respect to the Browns. They're a decent opponent this year that we needed to beat. They weren't the Lions. There's a difference. The Browns are a lot better than the Lions are. The Lions, we're seeing this winless team come in. We're seeing not good on offense, not good on defense, not good at really anything. And the Steelers played down to them. Now, credit to the Lions, though. The Lions their rushing game looked really well. Mm-hmm. Like their guards played well. And then when the one dude went out, we saw a dip in their rushing game a lot. It was definitely that one tackle who was like creating a lot of those blocks. Like he was a big part of their rushing game.
Well, because too, one thing that I do have to give credit to was Penei Sewell. He did a pretty nice job on T.J. Watt. I'll give you that because I actually did. Sorry about that, guys. I really did like Penei Sewell coming out, and and he did a pretty nice job on T.J. Watt for the most part until he finally got that sack in the third before he got hurt. Which,
I mean, you have to get pretty well if you have to block Kevon Thibodeau for 3 years of your college career during practice every day.
Which, speaking of which, he's most likely going to be the first overall pick.
Yeah. Go Ducks, baby.
We could get into college football if we have time, because we're actually going to get, because it's a ritual. Whenever Caleb is on the show, we have to talk Pens, and there's some big news that came out this week about the Pens, so you'll definitely want to stay tuned in for that. But just looking at this game, there were some things that kind of annoyed me with this. 3 turnovers, and 2 fumbles, both in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the first fumble against Deontay Johnson. And where they got the ball, Detroit did, you're thinking, oh boy, here they go. They're going to be able to get in the field goal range and kick a field goal to win the game. And we're going to absolutely get laughed at. They go and they miss that kick badly. Because that side that I was on, I was sitting right there on the goal line. It was in section 106. Just sitting right there, and that was a bad kick. He missed by a good 5 yards, 5 yard plus. It was, and you're like, all right, you need to score. And I actually was telling myself, I'm like, I don't know why, but I feel confident. I guess I shouldn't have. Because then you have the over-the-head snap, which we had a bunch of those with Kendrick Green. And if we remember, in the very beginning part of the game, Mason Rudolph made a very nice play off of one of those. Snagged it out of the air, and it was like it was an RPO kind of deal, and he made a good play out of it for a first down.
Yeah,
so,
snagged it out of the air, spun real nice, and made a good throw.
Yeah, like Mason Rudolph, he did not wow us, but he wasn't pathetic. He wasn't terrible.
Hot take, Mason Rudolph played well enough for us to win that game. Himself. He played well enough that serviceable enough to win that game.
So you look at, the fact that it's rainy conditions like that, and you throw the ball 50 times.
First of all, your backup could be the greatest backup in the world, okay? But if your starting quarterback goes out the night before from a game, your game plan cannot be, hey, let's throw the ball 50 times. I don't care if you have Tom Brady as a backup quarterback. You cannot roll into a game and say, hey, let's throw the ball 50 times with our backup quarterback that we haven't been running first team sets with all week.
So you look at it, 30 of 50, 60% completion. That's not the greatest, but in the conditions that you were in, at least you didn't look like Jared Goff. He had a for 242 yards. He averaged 4.8 yards per throw, which is starting to show just in the offense, because now you have 2 different quarterbacks who's come in, and we're seeing that average yards per throw the exact same, right in that 4 to 6 yard range. And today's NFL, that's just not going to cut it. You can't just dink a dunk down the field. And then you threw that touchdown, and then you had the interception. Did not get sacked, so that was a good sign. You like to see that. Then you have you got Najee Harris, 26 carries, 105 yards, average 4 yards per carry, so you got over 100 there. You like to see that. Then Deontay Johnson, 7 receptions, 83 yards, 11.9 yards per catch. You would have liked, if he wouldn't have made that fumble, there's no doubt in my mind they would have found a way to get 10, 15 more yards, and Chris Boswell, elite, would have went down and kicked that extra point or kicked that game-winning field goal.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. Twice that we could have done that.
Yes. And obviously, and we look at the overtime, you had the 1 turnover, then you had the overhead snap. And then here's another thing too we got to take into consideration. They took away a touchdown from Najee Harris in the end zone off of a BS holding call from Dan Moore Jr. That was very annoying in itself, because you look at it and that was a very ticky-tack call in my opinion. But we can
that's a whole nother story.
But we can make excuses all we want. But at the end of the day, we have to look into reality. You're allowing the winless Detroit Lions to run for 229 yards on the ground against you. You're allowing them to rush 5.9 yards per carry. And then on top of that, they won the turnover margin +3 there. Steelers were 7 penalties, 59 yards compared to their 8, so very similar there. I think 1 for 3 in the red zone isn't going to cut it. I think you need to do better there in the red zone in itself. But there were things that were just getting that they could have done a whole lot better. In this game, and like you said, they played down to their opponents. And here's my thing. Why? Why do they do this? And obviously, we didn't see last week what we see, it seems like every other week, where it's they they play great in the first half, and then in the second half, they play BS soft coverage and play very conservative, and they allow the other team to get back in the game. That wasn't the case in this game, but damn. You're meaning to tell me that you allowed... There was a chance that the winless Lions could have won their first game of the year against you?
It's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch this team.
You know who has the hardest...
Sometimes.
You know who has the hardest rest of the schedule for the rest of the year?
We do.
The Pittsburgh Steelers do. You face...
Which sets us up, though, for... I mean, it's a good chance to prove it. Kind of like the same boat that Ohio State is in right now. I see two very similar teams. They're on the outside looking in at this point, which Ohio State isn't, but we are. Pittsburgh Steelers are. Okay? But we could win our games we need to, and we'll put ourselves right in the spot to make a playoff spot. Or we could use these games as like a proving ground and show that we really aren't going to make the playoffs. The thing is, the AFC is wide open right now.
Oh,
and we play the teams that we need to beat in order to advance. So it's not going to be we played a bunch of NFC teams and it came down to like a tiebreaker and we really weren't that good. No, if we're going to make it, we have all the games we need to prove that we're a playoff team.
Well, right now, so the Pittsburgh Steelers are 1-1 in the division. You look at the division itself. Baltimore lost a game that they really should not have won. So Justin says statistically the Steelers do not have the hardest remaining schedule. I know Pro Football Focus says they do, and what I'm about to get to here in a second, just looking at the rest of the schedule. But look at Baltimore. They just lost a game they really shouldn't have won, but Miami, they schemed out very well against Lamar Jackson. Cleveland gets absolutely obliterated by New England. Pittsburgh ties with the worst team of football. Hell, the winner of the NFL or the AFC North is a team that didn't even play. The Cincinnati Bengals had a bye week, and they came out of the bye week like, okay. After the week before, they just got their asses handed to by Cleveland, and the week before that, they lost to Mike White. So, like you said, this whole AFC is wide open. But let's look at
look at the teams ahead of us too, right? Well, here, go through the remaining schedule first, and then we'll look at the teams ahead of us.
So the remaining of the schedule at LA, where they have not looked the greatest, but I don't care. I'm not looking at them and say, oh, they haven't looked the greatest because hell, we almost just lost to the damn Lions. So
at this point, we're playing the best team in the NFL every week, and I don't care. That needs to be our mindset.
Then you play at Cincinnati, another divisional opponent. Then you're at home versus Baltimore. They're the leaders in the division right now. Those two games right there are very, very crucial.
Yes.
And then the only team that right now is not above 500, you play Thursday night at Minnesota. And that is a team that I could see a lot of fans sleeping on because they're going to look at their record. They are 4-5 right now. But I guarantee you, they will play in that game a whole lot better than 4-5. Kirk Cousins, say what you want to say about Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. He's still a respectable quarterback in the NFL. Dalvin Cook, I know what the recent reports that came out about him is kind of ugly, but he's still playing right now, and he's a top quality running back. Two stud wide receivers, and Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen.
The Vikings are a team of like year in and year out, no matter what the record is, they're going to roll in there playing you like they're the 5th seed in the NFC. Every year. No matter what, they could be winless and they'll roll in like they could be a playoff team. They're one of the most confusing teams in football of why they're not better. Because they're a good team and their record doesn't show it every year.
And right now, I know we don't play them for a couple more weeks. They're 4-5. They're 8th in the NFC playoff race. So they're right outside looking in. Mm-hmm. So that game right there, depending on how things go, is going to be very important for them. Then you play Tennessee. I understand they don't have Derrick Henry, but their defense has looked a lot better, and Tennessee is looking good. They are, if I'm not mistaken, the number 1 seed. Yeah,
they're the number 1 seed in the AFC right now.
Right. So you have that looking in. Then you play Kansas City. You just saw what they did against Las Vegas, who smoked us. where they had where Patrick Mahomes had 5 touchdowns and they looked like they were back. DJ said Kirk Cousins is dog water. You can hear a lot of Kirk Cousins is dog water. Kirk Cousins is a very high quality quarterback. It doesn't matter. It seems like when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's going to find a way to play decently well. I sure as hell hope I'm wrong.
Like the MVP.
You said what?
I said we're going to make him look like the MVP.
I sure as hell hope I'm wrong, and I hope that someone could clip this and make me look like an absolute fool on Twitter, and I'll give you all right champions pose to you. But that's not. We'll
people could clip it of me. People could clip it of me, and I wouldn't even see it because I don't care.
And then you look at that. Then you play Monday Night Football against Cleveland. That's going to be another very important game because your last 2 games are divisional games. At home versus Cleveland, at Baltimore. So this schedule is brutal the rest of the year. And you look at it, you're not going to be able to play the way that you've been playing all year and expect to just find a way to win these games. Not against these opponents. Because you look at the 4-game win streak that you go on. Versus Denver. Not really that good of a team. In fact, they just sold off their best player 2 weeks ago. They traded him away.
They're not a playoff team.
Seattle, they didn't even have their starting quarterback nor their starting running back. And their defense was historically bad, and you had to win you had to have TJ Watt make an absolutely insane play for them to win that game. Then you face Cleveland. All right. I think they didn't look the greatest, but I think they did a good job on defense of holding them, holding that rushing attack, and they did what they had to do. And then you have Chicago where, we could be honest and say that maybe we did get a lot of help from the refs in order to win that game. And it was another example of how they played well in the first half, and then in the second half they looked like dog water. There's a trend. In reality,
that was one thing I was thinking the other day when we collapsed against Chicago. I wanted to sit down and look at every box score that showed first, second, third, and fourth points for each team of all the games in Tomlin's era and figure out which games we blew a 10-point plus lead in the second half.
Probably.
I bet you there's a lot of them.
Especially since 2018.
Yeah.
And then obviously then you go in this game and then you play down to your opponent and then you tie. Which, if you want it, and I understand, regardless or not, if you're playing the Lions to any team, it's pretty much a lose-lose situation. If you obliterate them, well, you're playing the Lions. But then if you have the situation like we did, now we're getting absolutely laughed at because we ended their losing streak. Although they didn't win, we still technically ended their losing streak. So,
well, see, that's the Lions too. They're not as bad as the record says they are. And I would have taken this opinion before we even went into this week. They've lost on a lot of unlucky endings all year long. I mean, look at what happened with Baltimore. They would have beat Baltimore, and they would have given Baltimore would have given them their first win of the season, and it would have been the 1-something Lions, and we wouldn't have cared. They had Baltimore won, and then they threw a couple of questionable calls, which the refs have been questionable for every team this year. It's getting worse and worse by the year. But they made some questionable calls at the end, gave the Ravens a shot, and that's when Tucker hit that crazy long field goal to hit the NFL record. That doesn't happen. Those calls don't happen. You don't have Justin Tucker on your team, and all of a sudden, the Lions beat the Ravens. There was other times, same thing happened with the Falcons too. The Lions aren't as bad as their record shows. Now, I would have said that before they came into this week, and it's still pretty embarrassing that we tied them. But there's still another one of those teams that, the NFL this year, it's there's not clear-cut best. This is a weird year for football.
Yeah. Real quick,
everybody.
I want to stop you real quick because I got somewhat of breaking news in baseball. We have officially found out the National League MVP, and it is the Philadelphia Phillies' own Bryce Harper. So there is that.
No. I reject that. No.
I reject that.
No.
So there is that. So now Bryce Harper is officially a 2-time MVP or NL MVP. But so real quick, let's go through just looking at scores. DJ said overrated. Are you talking about Kirk Cousins? I think so, but I want confirmation on that.
No, probably Harper, because that's what we all chant when he comes to town.
Oh yeah, there you go. 49. So week 1 against the 49ers, lose 41-33. Week 2, you get obliterated by the Packers. Week 3 against the Ravens, that's when they had the lucky 66-yard field goal. Bears 24-14, 2 possessions. Minnesota 19-17. There you go. That was that's a close one. Then you get the Bengals obliterated 34-11, and then the Rams 28-19, Philadelphia 44-6, and then obviously the Pittsburgh, you obviously tie there. So when you look at their schedule, they've scored over 30 once, and then after that they haven't scored more than 20, which is not looking good at the fact that you're supposed to have one of the better defenses in the NFL. Supposed to. Not now. That is something that we will need to take into consideration this week. Is Minka Fitzpatrick was they said on Monday he's on the COVID-19 list. So we're in a position now where we could possibly in a crucial game against, I don't care, a still very potent offense in LA without TJ Watt, still without without Stephon Tuitt. Obviously Tyson Alualu, he's been out for a while now, since week 2, if I'm not mistaken. Who else am I? Obviously Minka, possibly. And then who else am I missing here?
Still no Tuitt. I
said him already.
Okay.
I feel like I'm missing more. And then
Hayden was goofy. He went out a lot. The Lions game.
And then on offense, we could possibly be without. I believe it's Kevin Dotson. Trey Turner, they said they believe he'll be okay. But
Claypool practiced today.
Yeah, and then but Kevin Dotson looks like he's not going to he's not going to play for a week or two. And then obviously we don't know what's going to happen with Ben Roethlisberger, and so we're very injury plagued right now in a stretch where we really need to find a way to pull off another little four game win streak or more at that. But yeah, just the way that this game was going, it was just very annoying that there's so much that they were doing wrong, or they just did not perform well to just go out there and obliterate them. And then, so we could look at the schedule this week for just the AFC North, because this is something we're going to need to take into consideration. So Baltimore is playing Chicago, but if I'm not mistaken, Lamar did not practice today, so that's something to watch out for. The Cleveland Browns are playing that same Detroit team that we just tied to. Cincinnati is playing the Las Vegas Raiders, which for Pittsburgh, that's a terrible game because both teams have right now a tiebreaker against you. But I think in that game, we'd much rather have Las Vegas win. And then obviously we play the Chargers. So those are all things that we're going to have to watch out for.
Also to take into consideration too, the Cons are the only home team this week.
Yeah.
Everybody else is on the road.
Which I'm interested to see how the Steelers are going to play in LA. Obviously, we know the last time that the Steelers played in LA. I know DJ in the comments was there. Steeler Nation absolutely took over, but at the same time, that was not a good LA team compared to now. I understand that LA is I think 5 and something, if I'm not mistaken. I'm
5-4. They're the 7th.
5-4, yeah. So obviously, they're one game above 500, but Justin Herbert could find a way, and I'll let you go ahead and do your O. I'll let you go ahead and do that. Who's also my fantasy quarterback.
Same here.
Well, that's no surprise to you. My two fantasy quarterbacks are Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow.
I don't even know who my backup is. Keep talking. I'm going to find out who my backup
Herbert gave me a solid 13 points last week.
Yeah, Herbert's been up and down. I don't know. Their team is, the Chargers are a weird team. It's hard to predict.
Yeah, and what's up, Marcus? I see you in the comments as well. And then obviously, so we're looking at the Lions. Jared Goff is apparently he's day-to-day with an oblique, so that's something to watch out for with that game as well. Who
do they even have as a backup?
Tim Doyle or something. I think that's his name. I think that's what his name is.
Okay.
But I'm letting everyone know right now, especially to all those Clowns fans that because when I tell you how on Facebook how many people were tagging me and post, oh, how does it feel to go all the way to Pittsburgh to watch your team tied to the worst team of football? I'm telling you right now, if you guys lose, I don't give a damn who's your quarterback. I don't care if it's Baker Bunker Mayfield. I don't care if it's Case Keenum, Noodle Arm Case Keenum. Y'all lose to that team, I'm on your ass. Thank you very much. I will be on your ass.
See, my response to all those fans is, then I have a legit question for them. Like, how does it feel to have a losing season? Because I don't know. And, I really want to know what that's like. Because I know it's coming up. I know that the Steelers have the worst future of the three teams in Pittsburgh.
Oh, I remember Browns. I had two Browns fans come up to me a few years ago. It was actually in 2019. They were like, "What is it like to win?" And I'm just like, it feels great. I'm just like, it feels so good because 2019, that was when they were just pumping their chest out thinking that they were the big bad dog around, and in reality, they were still a little tiny pup, and they got absolutely humbled. And I remember in, I think it was this year's draft class, I remember them, because obviously they were so used to, in the NFL draft, picking in the top 10, where they didn't have to wait that long. They're sitting here like, how do you do this? How do you wait so long, like picking in the 20s? And I'm like, well, it's a long process.
Pittsburgh fans know their fair share of losing, though. We still care about our Broncos.
Technically, as in the time that I've been a fan of the Steelers, we technically had one losing season. And that was in 2006. That was Bill Cowher's final year.
Did we lose the season that year, or was it 2003?
Well, I wasn't a fan at that time. I became a fan Big Ben's rookie year in 2004. So in 2006, the Pittsburgh Steelers were... Oh, they were 8-8 that year. Okay, so...
Yeah, I'm telling you, 2003 was the last time they lost the season.
I lied, even worse. So I technically have never seen a below 500 Pittsburgh Steelers team, so... I don't know why. I keep on thinking they went 6-10 that year. I don't know why.
Dude, that was my first reaction when we tied this game when they went final. I was like, dang it. We just found another way, and Tomlin found another way to go 8-8 for another year.
2019 was absolutely insane. But that season was fun because you look at that season, Ben Roethlisberger goes down, and I've admitted this a million times. I'll admit it again. First thing I did is I started looking up Justin Herbert. That's the first thing I did. I'm like, all right, because I understood our defense was good. I realized they were going to be that damn good, and they were really going to keep us in game, or keep us into one game away from being in the playoffs, by the way. I think that's what's even crazier, is the fact that if they won that game against Baltimore, they're in the playoffs. Now,
would they have done anything that year?
Well, no. Would they have they would have gotten obliterated by the Chiefs, because that's who we would have played. But it would just still have been the fact that in the scenario that you were at, and I think that would have put an even bigger case on what Mike Tomlin as a coach, because Mike Tomlin seems like when we talk about NFL coaches, great NFL head coaches in today's NFL, it's always guys like Bill Belichick get brought up, obviously Andy Reid, Sean Payton. Mike Tomlin always gets he always gets gets brought up in that conversation. He's always in that group. And obviously, Pittsburgh fans, there are some that are on the fire him train, and obviously, but you have to look at the success. Historically, one of the better coaches in the NFL. Now, the playoffs is a whole different ballgame. But if we're just talking overall at everything, it is what it is. He's still one of the better coaches in the NFL. And that season and just in general was just so fun. Because TJ Watt, that was the first year that, because 2018 TJ Watt had a pretty good year, but 2019 was the first year where TJ Watt was really getting, he was really becoming his own. And Deontay Johnson, that was his rookie year, so we're seeing a little bit of him. And that was at the time, Minka Fitzpatrick, he comes in that trade, and obviously 5 minutes into that San Francisco game, he makes a huge impact into that. And I think some of us were excited about Mason Rudolph because there was a legitimate shot that, hey, he might be the future. Because remember in that Seattle game, week 2, he did not look bad at all. No. He actually looked pretty well, and you're like, okay.
I had a friend who went out and bought his jersey after that game.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I was like, Mason Rudolph jersey, where you at? Obviously, real glad I didn't do that. But
no, I'm still tempted to buy like that $40 Duck Hodges jersey that's on NFLshop.com.
You said James Conner?
No, Duck Hodges.
Oh, I wouldn't blame you for that at all. Duck Hodges, the legend.
Oh, he's awesome. Like I would even the other day. It's been sitting there for a long time because people aren't buying them up really. The price just keeps going down and down. I was like, shoot, if it drops below $30, that can I buy it at $40? Absolutely, but that's my block. It's like, nope, I'm not buying it until it drops below $30, and then once it drops below 30, I'm 100% picking up that.
It can be $39.99 buying it.
Yep, it's got to have a 3 at the beginning. If it says 4, nope, it's got to have a 3 at the beginning.
Marcus said, "Bring back Duck." Hey, you saw? Hey, I was making a joke saying they should bring him back for a 1-game contract.
They should retire his number.
That would have been great. But yeah, I think overall, and Marcus, I know you're in the comments. Jared, I know you were in here earlier. I appreciate y'all making this one of the best weekends of my life. Which, if you haven't yet, I did do a vlog on that, so it is here in the channel. Make sure you go and check that out as well. It was a blast that whole entire weekend, and I know for you, Caleb, you've been to Pittsburgh. Obviously you grew up there, and so I was saying this to myself. I said, "Damn, I'm really jealous of the people who could just do this every week."
Yup, it's a sports town.
I can't wait till next year. You and me get to do a vlog together of us going to a Pirates game.
Oh my word, it's gonna be so much fun, dude. We gotta pick a day if the baseball season even happens. But that's a story for the off season.
Yeah, I have a discussion I want to get off air about that because I talked to one of my big baseball friends, and he actually completely disagrees with what you said because I showed him what you said about the lockout, and he was completely disagreeing with that. But obviously, there's going to be two sides to that, and we'll see who ends up being right.
It? There's two sides to a lockout.
Well, to this debate of whether
I know that's why we're locked out of baseball. Congrats, you figured it out.
I finally did something right in my life. But I know you've been kind of itching to talk a little bit of Penguins. And real quick before we get into the big news. Before we get into the big news about what's going on, I'll let you kind of give a little update on what the hell's been going on with them.
Dang it. I don't even know where to start with this, okay? If we're talking about it from an ownership perspective, right? The ownership group came in 1999 when their previous owner was threatening to move the team if they didn't get a deal done, and they filed bankruptcy. They were saved. Lemieux and Burkle came in. It was great. Okay, they hinted at moving, but that was just Lemieux's play at getting a new arena built in Pittsburgh and the new brand built back up. Lemieux even came out later, and people talk about the Penguins almost moved. Lemieux came out and said he was never going to move the Penguins. That was just a way to get a new arena, and we enjoy it now. Just off air before, we were talking about how much it's a beautiful facility. Okay, they've built their brand up. They bought the Penguins for what, I think it was $100 million in 1999.
Ron Burkle and Mario Lemieux.
Mario
Lemieux. I apologize.
Mario Lemieux.
I am learning.
Yeah.
The reason why I also said this, I actually heard someone say Mario Lemieux this weekend in Pittsburgh. They were talking about him. So.
Okay, well they're wrong. It's Mario.
Mario. I'll write that down.
Yeah, please do. No, okay, so the rumor sale is going to go through for $900 million is what the rumors number, which would put them in one of the higher valued NHL franchises. Which in their case, they rebuilt the team, they rebuilt the brand. It's one of the highest watched NHL teams every year. It's one of the highest attended up until this year, but COVID's kind of messing with it still because people still not wanting to go, and teams all over the place are losing their sellout streaks. But like a crazy 514-something games sold out in a row. Like, the Penguins have a big fan base, highest followed team on social media, on Instagram. Okay? The Penguins have a big fan base. They've built a big brand, and this is a time to move and sell. And if anybody's gonna buy this team, if any ownership group is gonna come in, a group like Fenway Group, which it's still not official, they still haven't made the official announcement, but it's gonna be any day now. But a group like the Fenway Group is a good group to come in and buy this franchise. They've run the Red Sox well. They've run Fenway Park well. They've run Liverpool well. They've run Roush Fenway Racing well, which just rebranded the other day. They're a successful ownership group who knows how to win and knows how to spend to the cap, and they care about their teams. My issue with it was, my initial reaction was, is this lease going to transfer over? Because in the NHL, there's a rule with new ownership transfers that was just put in place a couple years back, where once you buy a team, it's 7 years before you're allowed to relocate that team to a different place. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, is this lease with PPG Paints Arena that the Penguins have with the city, is this lease going to, my first thing was, are they going to move? Is the lease going to be void because it's with a different group? Are we going to be looking at 7 years until the Penguins are no more? And so that was my initial reaction, but then it's coming out as more details have come in that the lease is staying with the Fenway Group, so that's a little breath coming off.
So I want to say something real quick, and obviously for me not being a hockey fan or knowing as much obviously as you, looking at it from me, just from I guess an outsider-ish perspective is, I think it would. I understand when a team moves to a different city, obviously there's a whole rebranding thing, and obviously the money can be there because you could obviously, the merchandise is going to go through the roof and all that. But when you look at Pittsburgh, just in the stuff, and not biased even, Pittsburgh hockey, you look at Pittsburgh as a sports city. Obviously, if you're a true Pittsburgh fan, like you, for an example, you love the Pirates, even though they have been a bottom feeder team for quite some time now. You still support them. You still go to games. Then you have the Penguins, who have had recent success where they won 2 Stanley Cups in the last few years. And then obviously Pittsburgh. They're one of the best franchises in all of sports. So
yeah,
I feel like
15-year playoff streak with 3 championships in there.
It feels like it would be very dumb to move a team like Pittsburgh out of Pittsburgh because the support is consistently there.
It is dumb, but then you got to look at it from the flip side though. We're a small market team, and people like to look at it as a team that Pittsburgh only cares because they've been good. What's going to happen, and we don't really know what's going to happen when this team isn't good. You can blame a lot of the fans on this success. What's going to happen when this team goes into a rebuild? Now, my belief is the reason why attendance dropped in the late 90s, attendance was up throughout the 90s. When the previous owner just completely failed and traded off all of our pieces for pretty much nothing, and we had a good stretch there where we were one of the worst teams in the NHL before we got those 3 draft picks in a row with Fleury, Malkin, and Crosby with those 3 years in a row. Before that, we were a bottom feeder team who didn't have attendance because there was no money spent. We played in a not great arena. I mean, I love the Civic Arena. It was nice, but it was not by any means a good NHL facility. It was a 1950s arena. It's not. It was cool, but it wasn't anything great. It was cramped. It was dark. It was dusty. Like, it is what it is. I can understand how the fans kind of went away. We have a new facility now. We have a new brand. There's a new generation of Penguins fans. Hockey is blowing up. But to me, my first reaction was like, initial reaction was, are we going to lose the Penguins? Because in my mind, the world still sees us, no matter how big these teams get, the world still sees us as a small market team. The world still sees Pittsburgh as a small market. And so with all these NHL teams moving and all these big ownership groups, and it's always the outsiders too. If another Pittsburgh group bought them, I would say, okay, that's fine. But it's an outside group. And so I was thinking, like, shoot, is this going to see the end? But then I saw the Leafs transfer over 2040, so it's going to be another 19 years of watching the Penguins in PPG Paints Arena. And it's going to be okay. I can see them extending that lease too because it's a nice venue.
Right.
My other thing was, what about a rebrand? Because Boston has been pretty pissed off ever since we went back to the Pittsburgh gold colors, and because they were the original black and gold team in the NHL, which is true. But Pittsburgh as a city with the Pirates and with the Steelers has. Yeah, we're themed to those colors.
Yellow.
But technically, the Bruins had it for a long time, though. But black and gold is our city colors, and there is a reason why they all tie together.
Right. Well, when you look at it in terms of Pittsburgh, yellow, gold, yellow/gold, that's a staple for the city of Pittsburgh. Gold. You look at a lot, let's talk about the cities that have different sports teams. What other, off the top of my head, I can't think of another city that has.
Seattle's the only one that comes close.
With that turquoise greenish kind of thing.
Yep, Seattle's they have the same similar turquoise green, lime green, blue.
The green.
They're the only one that comes close. But no other city can even come close.
So and that's what's okay. Yeah, the Bruins might have had the black and gold colorway for longer, but do you expect? And you can understand why the Penguins did what they did in rebranding from that off-colored yellow that they had to, or gold, whatever you want to call it, to...
Well, to cut you off there, though, that wasn't the first time the Penguins changed to that. They were a navy blue, light blue, and then they had the yellow in the Penguin logo, but their jerseys were different colors of blue up and through the 80s when they switched because of the success of the Steelers and the Pirates in the 70s, and they wanted to bring the city back together. That's when they switched to the yellower gold. And then in the late 90s when they went to the Robo Pen jerseys, I don't know if you've seen those, but people have their mixed feelings on them, but our 90s throwbacks, every team had their weird 90s uniforms. But then when they went back to the style they were previously, they went with the Vegas gold when the Lemieux ownership took over. But then the Vegas gold was tried to push out of the way when Vegas came into the league. That was the year we saw the end. When Vegas's first year was the year we saw the end of the Vegas gold, because Vegas kind of wanted that, and that's when the Penguins kind of, after the popularity of what are their home jerseys now being worn as an alternate for a couple of years, they changed back over. So they changed back over to that gold. So that's when but it was just to me shoot, Boston group, they want our colors changed. I'm just look, if you spend to the cap, if you keep my Penguins in Pittsburgh, if you keep my colors on the Penguins, I don't care. I don't care who owns the team. Initial reaction was let's go. Are we going to move this team? Okay. Are we going to change the team? Are we going to rebrand?
Quick, breaking news. So
we're a National League town.
AL MVP.
We're a National League town. We don't care.
Well, I'm just saying unanimously so Shohei Ohtani just unanimously won the AL MVP.
And Shohei Ohtani might actually be if you look up what MVP for a team is, Shohei Ohtani's picture needs to be there of the list of people who are at, because he literally does it all.
Well, you look at MVP, it's always just whoever's the best player instead of who is the most valuable player on the team.
Which that's the thing is, I don't think that MVP in most leagues is a true MVP. Because like, what's the criteria that was like downplaying on Harper even? And I don't agree that Harper should have got it. But one of the arguments was like, oh, Harper's team's not going to make the playoffs. What does it matter? What does it matter? Like, what does it matter how good your team is? If you're the most valuable player in baseball, baseball is very much a team sport. It's not a superstar sport. But Shohei Ohtani is very much the most valuable player in the AL. That is a good pick. They got that one right.
So shout out to Hunter for that. Hunter says Shohei got all first place votes and Vladdy got all second place votes besides one. Simeon third, Judge fourth, Correa fifth. So, and
they got that right.
Yeah, Correa, he just declined his option, so it sounds like he's going to be a free agent. So
future Pirate, shout out Pirates Twitter.
Hey, well, got to make it happen.
Have you seen that stuff going around?
What?
The phase when Pirates Twitter was just all over Correa to the Pirates.
Yeah, I have actually seen that.
Yeah.
So I'm actually real quick. Fun. If anyone's wondering what I'm doing, I looked up the attendance. I was curious to see what the attendance, like in terms of rankings of what the Pittsburgh Pirates or not the Pirates, the Penguins were over the last few years. Mm-hmm. I was interested. So this year so far we are 15th, so dead middle in the pack in attendance. Yeah. 2019 to 2020 because I didn't count COVID year.
You really because of COVID, because people still aren't going back to stuff. You really can't count this year either. You need to go with the data before. Well, yeah.
So 2019 and 2020, 11th. 2018, 2019, 8th. 2017, 2018, 10th. What is the previous year before that? 16, 17, 4th. The previous year before that, you have 11th. So you really have you're typically 12th. So you're no lower than 15th. You've been no more than 15th the last 6-7 years.
The problem is, are you going by just like total numbers, or are you going by percentage?
It's just on here by average, but I can do percentage.
Percentage is what you got to go by, because some venues are way like if you're going by percentage, the Winnipeg Jets win it every year, but their venue's only like 14,000 fans.
Okay,
15,000 fans.
So in terms of percentage, for this season so far, we're 12th.
Okay.
2019, 2020, which they were 8th.
Yeah.
18-19, they were 7th. Okay, so even in this case, so now you're looking at top 10 in almost every year. 8th again in 2017, 2018, and then 16-17, that was the year they won, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I was right.
That was the second year they won, so they were coming off of a championship.
Okay, so they were second that year. And then 15-16, they won that year, right?
Yes.
Okay. They were, in terms of percentage, 6th. Okay, so typically, they're top 10 every year.
Yep.
But then, yet again, they've also been a top, one of the better teams in hockey in the NHL. So it's...
I mean, we have a 15-year playoff streak.
Okay, so, like, what year... So, like, if I looked up the 02-03 season, is that where they...
Yes.
Okay. So the 02-03 season, okay, they don't even have percentages for that.
The 4-5 season was the year of the lockout. The year after that, the 6-7 season, where they still were all right. They weren't great. They were...
Okay, so
they were 20th.
The 06-07 season is the first season where I have percentages on ESPN, and they were 15th, so middle of the road. And Hunter, I do see your comments. We'll get into that here in a second. Because he also brings in some stuff about NH or the NL. So that's. I mean, like, when you look at certain, so like for the 07-08 season, they were 7th. So they were top 10. Now, were they good in 07-08?
So that was the first year they made the jump, and that was the first year of like the this current core's like
Okay.
like they were it was kind of like how the Browns were. Like they had a couple of years where they're just kind of getting figured out. 07, 08 was the first year. It was like, okay, this is a legit team, and they went to the finals that year where they lost to Detroit, but they did go to the finals that year.
So real quick, so Hunter, switching in real quick of what he said. Hunter says, I think Harper deserves the NL MVP. He was awesome. I think they got the NL voting right. Soto was second, Tatis was third, Brandon Crawford was fourth, and Trey Turner was fifth. Although he thinks Turner over Crawford.
See, that's valid. I just, like, the only thing different I would switch from his list is just Soto and Harper. That's it.
Oh, so you think Soto was the MVP?
Yes.
Interesting.
But I'm looking at it from different criteria than what, like, normal, like, what my opinion of what the MVP award should be.
Well, you're looking at it from a true, the actual most valuable player and just not who was the best player. And
yeah.
Because
I don't think how good your team is needs to be a factor in if you're the MVP or not. I think the most valuable player should be who would be the most, like, if you started right now and had a one off where it was like a fantasy reset of the whole league, and you had to pick one player for one season, who would you have picked for this year?
Well, I think when you look at MVP, like, and I hate admitting this as a Cavs fan, but the last season, or just last season, Steph Curry with Golden State, he literally was the reason why they were even in the play-in tournament. If you take him off that team, they're literally a lot. And we saw that the previous year, Steph Curry gets hurt. He's gone most of the year, and they were absolutely abysmal. And then you come back the next year. Like, I could understand, like, if Steph Curry would have won MVP last year, I think that would have actually been the correct vote. 2017, 2018. LeBron, in my opinion, no bias, because a lot of people believe this as well, should have won MVP, because if you take LeBron off that team, they're not good. And the fact that he was able to carry that team to the finals, because he had just lost Kyrie. Isaiah Thomas, who that was the big trade piece and that did absolutely nothing. Like, and I understand we're getting off topic here, but I understand, and I kind of like how you think about it in terms of MVP and not just who's the best player in that perspective sport. Like,
because like a best player should win like offensive player of the year or defensive player.
So like in the NFL, where the MVP is always pretty much always going to be a quarterback.
Yeah, and
then offensive player of the year is. That's where whoever's the best offensive player, or for defensive player of the year, who was the best defensive player, which spoiler alert, TJ Watt won the midseason player of the year as well. So the hell with you, Browns fans, and Myles Garrett, but there's that.
Myles Garrett's a great NFL player. If we ignore my hatred towards Myles Garrett because he plays for the Clowns or he tried to kill my quarterback, Myles Garrett's a good player. Would I ever accept a 1-for-1 trade between Myles Garrett and TJ Watt? No. And would Browns fans accept the same trade? No, they wouldn't, because they're fine with their guy. But I'm fine with my guy because I know he's better. And we'll be okay.
My thing is too, when you look at those two, and obviously I always believe, yes, I think in reality, because this is always a debate, between Browns fans and Steelers fans, where we're always going to root for TJ. They're always going to root for Myles. I think at the end of the day, we could both agree that they are two of the top pass rushers in the NFL. They are in that elite category. And that if those two are finalists for Defensive Player of the Year, no one's really going to argue that. But it's at the same time, I think, and they always make the argument of he's only good because he's a Watt or because of his last name. And I say, well, you look at what TJ's done. He does more because he could go out into coverage as well. You don't see Myles Garrett going out into coverage. And I understand it's a difference between position because Myles Garrett's a true D-end and TJ Watt's an outside linebacker. So at times you do see him going out into coverage. Well, I still think it's stupid as hell. But
yeah,
and you look at just the stats itself. they're very similar. It's just I think when you look at TJ, what he did this year against Seattle, making the clutchest play of the Pittsburgh Steelers season this year. And when is the last time you've seen Myles Garrett have one of those plays? I remember earlier this year, it was week 2. It was the game that Baker Mayfield got hurt and the game that we lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. We were watching both games side by side with each other. And he literally said to me, "Where is 95?" Because TJ Watt, before he got hurt in that Vegas game, was making all kinds of plays. He was everywhere. And he was literally saying, "Where the hell is 95? You don't see 90 doing this. You don't see 90 going missing. Do I need another?" Mm-hmm. He was basically, before I became famous for my infamous missing poster, he was basically saying, "Where the hell is he at?" And obviously he goes against, he has 4 sacks against the 39-year-old Jason Peters with Justin Fields in his very first start. But that's also a different story for a different day because TJ Watt also had a very good day as well in that game as well. I guess going against different tackles as well. But holy hell, that was a lot.
Yeah.
It felt good to get away from talking football, talk a little bit of Penguins, even though I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It was still nice to learn a little bit. I got to learn a little bit more about the history of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I also learned about Mario Lemieux.
Mario.
So that should prove that I learned something. I do want to say thank you everyone for tuning in. It was a hell of a show. Hopefully we'll be able to see Caleb back here real soon. Obviously next Thursday we're not doing, we'll have to discuss. Definitely we're not doing a show next Thursday. It's obviously Thanksgiving. We're going to be with the family. We'll discuss, maybe we'll be able to do something earlier in the week. We'll talk about that. But until then, do want to say thank you everyone for tuning in once again. And, obviously thankful for all you guys. We'll do a quick, what are you thankful for me? Thankful for all you guys, and I'm thankful for Caleb as well, here on the Renegade Roundtable. But till next week, or till possibly next week, or if not, once we hit December, I am Jeff. Till next time, I am Jeff.
I'm Caleb. That's still my name. I still exist.
Well, we had to make sure that's part of the reason why he needed to come on, so people know he exists still.
Let me check my pulse real quick. I might be a robot.
Okay, we're still good. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a great week, and peace out.
All right, see y'all.